One tranquil afternoon, deep within the whispering woods bordering the Silverwood River, a young fawn found herself utterly lost. Her small legs trembled, and her eyes, wide with panic, scanned the unfamiliar surroundings. A fragile bleat, barely audible, was carried on the gentle breeze that stirred the leaves. Suddenly, she stumbled, tumbling into the swift current of the river. The icy, turbulent water seized her instantly, dragging her away from the safety of the bank. She thrashed, her tiny limbs no match for the powerful whirlpool that gripped her. Her eyes bulged, and a desperate cry, swallowed by the roar of the wind and waves, escaped her mouth. Engulfed by the water, she resurfaced, her hope dwindling with each passing moment. There was no sign of her mother, only the menacing waves closing in around her. Panic fueled her desperate kicks against the churning water that constricted her tiny body. Her belly filled, and her ears quivered with cold and fear. Each breath was a struggle, choked by an overwhelming terror. Nearly spent, she managed one last, feeble call for help. Unbidden, a large wave surged, spinning her around and pushing her towards a tree branch. But no one was there, and the little deer seemed on the verge of sinking for good. Meanwhile, on the riverside road, Arthur Finch was cruising in his vintage convertible with his faithful golden retriever, Jasper. Arthur heard a faint, distressed cry, barely discernible over the rush of the river. He slammed on the brakes, his brow furrowed as he tried to pinpoint the source of the unusual sound. Jasper's head shot up, his ears perked, a soft growl rumbling in his chest as if he, too, sensed trouble. Arthur sprinted towards the riverbank, where the water swirled darkly. "Is anyone there?" he shouted, but only the gurgle of the water answered. Jasper suddenly let out a sharp bark and plunged into the murky depths without hesitation. As Arthur ran, he spotted a tiny creature struggling in the middle of the current. "Oh my God, it's a little deer!" he exclaimed, his heart pounding with dread. He had no time to think, his gaze fixed on the desperate animal. Jasper, without a second thought, dove into the churning water, swimming powerfully towards the deer. Water sprayed on either side of him, his eyes fixed with unwavering determination. The fawn continued to struggle, oblivious to her approaching rescuer. Jasper drew closer, extending his neck to gently grasp the deer's neck. The fawn was startled, her legs contracting, convinced a predator had seized her. But then, she felt secure, safe from claws or fangs. Jasper turned, beginning to swim upstream, each stroke steady and decisive. He skillfully kept the deer's head above the water, preventing her from choking further. Arthur knelt at the water's edge, waiting to retrieve both of them. Jasper swam in silence, only a few feet from safety. Arthur quickly took the deer from Jasper's gentle grip and carefully placed her on the wet ground. The fawn shivered, water still dripping from her ears and neck. Arthur removed his jacket and carefully wrapped it around her small, cold body. Jasper stood beside him, tongue lolling, panting, his gaze still fixed on the deer. "It's okay, little one," Arthur whispered comfortingly. "We made it just in time." He carefully lifted her and placed her in the back seat of his blue convertible. From the trunk, he retrieved a towel and began to dry her tiny body, section by section. Jasper settled into the passenger seat, turning his head to intently observe his new friend. The deer slowly began to calm, her breathing evening out as she warmed. Arthur got into the car, started the engine, and headed home with a clear purpose. Arthur's cozy, wooden cottage nestled on a verdant hill at the edge of Willow Creek Forest. He spread a warm towel by the living room fireplace for the fawn to lie on. Jasper lay beside her, his eyes never leaving her, as if guarding the small creature. Arthur fed the fawn warm milk from a bottle, gently stroking her forehead. The fawn gazed at him, her eyes softening with each touch, growing more trusting. The next day, she was able to stand, taking a few shaky steps in the backyard. Arthur named her Daisy, after the charming white spots on her back. Daisy soon began to follow Jasper around the yard, curious about everything. Jasper patiently and gently taught Daisy how to sniff, dig, and listen to the birds. Arthur took them for walks in Willow Creek Park every morning. The townspeople smiled as they watched Jasper and Daisy frolicking in the grass. Daisy would sometimes curl up in Arthur's arms when the afternoons grew chilly. The three became an unusual but perfectly harmonious family. Jasper no longer growled or looked around, but always lay close to Daisy like a big brother. Arthur knew, deep down, that the day of separation would eventually arrive. After 2 weeks, he realized it was time to help Daisy find her mother. He consulted a map of the Silverwood River, noting the areas where deer herds were known to roam. One sunny morning, Arthur put Daisy and Jasper in the car and drove back to the old river. Daisy was quiet, but her ears twitched constantly, as if listening for something familiar. When they reached the riverbank, Arthur turned off the car and opened the door for Daisy to step out. Jasper ran around, sniffing, while Arthur scanned the forest for any signs. Suddenly, in the distance, a large deer stood motionless at the edge of the woods. She didn't bolt. She was a female deer with round eyes, heavy with anticipation. Daisy froze for a few seconds, then suddenly stretched and bolted towards her. Arthur held his breath while Jasper sat still, watching Daisy's every step. Daisy ran over, paused for a moment, then pressed her head against the mother deer's body. The mother deer lightly licked Daisy's head, shivering slightly as if to confirm. Arthur watched the reunion before him, tears welling in his eyes, his heart swelling with happiness. Jasper barked softly, as if bidding farewell. Arthur sighed, smiled, and nodded. "We did the right thing, Jasper." Daisy turned to look at Arthur and Jasper one last time, her eyes filled with gratitude and longing. Arthur waved goodbye and said, "Go live like a true wild deer." The mother deer led Daisy into the woods, their silhouettes gradually disappearing behind the dense trees. Arthur and Jasper returned to the car, the sunlight glinting on the peaceful river. A new chapter had closed, full of kindness, hope, and an unbreakable friendship. Thank you for reading Daisy's story. If you enjoyed it, please consider sharing it.